And we're back. Another edition of Caught Stealing here at Fantasy Alarm, the fantasy baseball podcast. I'm Colby Conway at Colby R. Conway over on X, formerly known as Twitter. And with me here, as always, Matt Selz at the Selz Man. Matt, I cannot believe technically this is not our last show before opening day, before real opening day, but this will be the last, I guess you'd call it the last off-season episode before an actual regular season game.
That's true, because we have the Korea series on the 20th and 21st of March. So we are recording this Sunday evening. Happy St. Patty's Day. And in just 3 short days, we get actual games that count, right? And then everybody else, we got to wait a whole nother week for actual opening day. So I don't know, pretty nice that we get some baseball that counts. Although I always find it odd when they do these, so you get like a little taste, and then you got to wait a whole nother week, and teams are still playing spring training, and you're like, do I really care about spring training anymore? Like we got actual, like somebody is gonna be 2-0 or 1-1 in the standings, and we're still gonna have these exhibition things where teams are, building up wins in the grapefruit and cactus leagues. It's always kind of interesting, but great they're going to Korea. Should be a great atmosphere there for Dodgers Padres.
Now, the real question, I know you're not in the same time zone I am. I know I'm on Eastern time. Game's at 6:05 in the morning, so it's a little bit earlier for you. So my question is, will you be setting the alarm to get up and watch it?
I'm not sure about that. Maybe,
Will you be staying up
maybe.
late and not going to sleep so that you can watch it? Maybe
No,
that's another way of looking
I
at it.
may actually get up early because it occurs to me my daughter has before school music on Wednesday, which would be the 20th. So maybe I'll get up
Hmm.
and put it on in the background as I'm, helping get ready for school. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I like to think I'm getting up. My wife's not overly thrilled about it, but I like to think that I'll get up and at least watch. What'll probably happen is lay in bed, watch it, and then next thing you know, I'll blink and it'll be like the fourth inning because my
Yeah.
alarm's going off for work. That's
Yeah,
probably what's going to
I've
happen.
gotten up that early for F1 and EPL games, so I guess for baseball, we'll see.
Absolutely. But real opening day about a week later, but it will be nice to have some actual regular season games that count. Get to see this vaunted Dodgers lineup at its fullest, and that will be rather exciting to say the least. But of course, just like last week, rinse and repeat, just like the week before, rinse and repeat. The spring injuries are piling up. There's a particular New York right-hander that I think a lot of people want us to talk about, and we're going to. But first, let's talk about Eury Perez. It was the fingernail / blister. It was one of the two. Then he left that start early. Next day, they said, now it's a little bit of elbow soreness too. Imaging and testing is being done. Matt, I know that we don't have many updates, so you and I don't know. It is pure speculation, but all I can say is this one hurts.
It does hurt. Hopefully, not a whole lot for Eury Perez. Hopefully, he's not in a whole lot of pain. But it is a little confusing as to how a blister turned into elbow tightness. But at this point, I don't even know who's the opening day starter for Miami because it seems like every one of their dudes is injured,
Well, opening
right?
day will be handled. After that is the question mark.
I mean, yeah, I was being a little facetious, but like 4 of their 5, the guys we thought were going to be their starting rotation going into the season, 4 of the 5 of them are question marks at best for when or if they're pitching. So that's a little concerning for sure. So if you're drafting, I mean, you're likely drafting this coming weekend, right? Before you pencil in that you're targeting Eury Perez, you need to get as much information as you possibly can, right? There may not be that much, but check all the sources. Craig Mish is a pretty good follow on Twitter for Marlins news. He's a Marlins beat writer. There's a few other Marlins beat writers out there that are pretty good follows as well, who may have some info before some others. So I would check that. But man, anytime you hear elbow tightness, you got to be concerned.
For the Miami Marlins this spring training, you had Eury, you had Braxton Garrett, you had Edward Cabrera. There is a very real chance right now I'll just leave it at this before we move on to Gerrit Cole, because that's the name everyone wants to hear us talk about. There's a very real chance that for the second game of the regular season, the Miami Marlins will trot out a particular left-hander who has not started a game in his big league career. There's a very real chance AJ Puck is the number 2 in the rotation.
According to, if we're looking at Fangraphs right now, it goes Luzardo, AJ Puck, Trevor Rogers, Ryan Weathers, and Yanni Chirinos.
Yep.
Yeah, not great.
Yep.
Not great. And I'm just checking because they sent Max Mayer down. They sent him down to minor league camp, which was a little interesting given the injury news we got out of him. But yeah, it was looking for a little bit like they could actually start 5 lefty starters in the rotation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah,
but
they got 4 of them. As long as they stay healthy, they got 4 of them right now.
Four of them, and one of which has never started a game in the majors. So
yes,
there you go. That will be a sight to see for sure. Let's go to Gerrit Cole, Matt, just because one of the things is a theme that I'm seeing this spring, and I mentioned it before. This lack of clarity with like anything. I don't even know how else to describe it. Everything is just, it's an abundance of caution. It's general soreness, or there's no nothing. There's no substance in any of this. It seems like we finally got a little bit of an update where Cole is like, I guess it was called or classified as nerve inflammation in that right elbow of his, but it started with he wasn't bouncing back the way he normally does, which is like, okay, so what does that even mean? Like, he's just not recovering. Does it hurt? Is there pain? Is there numbness? But he's just not bouncing back. Okay.
Yeah, he described it as it felt like he was trying to come back from having pitched 100, like, started a game, threw 100 pitches, and then he's trying to come back from that in a spring training game in which he threw like 3 innings and maybe 40 pitches. So that it sounds like he just can't get the joint loose, which is concerning this early in spring.
Mm-hmm.
But I still don't know exactly, we still don't know exactly what's up with the shoulder or the elbow, whatever the heck he went and got scanned, because who knows at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to need surgery so far. We'll see. The timeline was described as 10 to 12 weeks from now. But he's expected to be back in the rotation in 10 to 12 weeks. So how long is he actually out for? Because then, he's going to have to do rehab starts. He's going to have to build back up. He's probably going to have to do some flat ground throws before he gets the rehab starts. So 12 weeks from now means maybe at the end of May, right? Mm-hmm. But are we taking that chance?
If you haven't drafted yet, here's what it comes down to. Where I would be willing to take him, he's not going to make it that far. So I know I'm not having anything.
Where would you be willing to take him?
Not anywhere in the top 150 overall. So if we're in a 10-team league outside of the 15th round, he's never going to fall that far. Well, I wouldn't imagine.
You never know. Sorry for those who are watching. I don't know. I have a hair in my mouth for some reason. We're going to talk about this draft here in a little bit. James Grande and I did a draft on Thursday morning for FSGA. Cole went in the 21st round of a 15-team roto on Thursday morning.
Oh.
That was fresh off the news coming out, because I'm pretty sure it came out Wednesday. We were seriously considering it as our 6th pitcher.
Yeah.
Because in the 21st round, we were ready to take him in the 17th. There were still some other bats that we liked. We'll talk about the draft a little bit in a little bit. But yeah, Cole made it to the 21st round in a 15-teamer on Thursday.
So per NFBC, with a lot of numbers here, there's a hot spot of picking Cole coming after about March 14th in the 130 to 160-ish range, with a couple down there. His min pick was actually back on the 13th at 265, but there's also been a 260 So 10-team league right there is the 26th round. So yeah,
So you may be able to get him in the
maybe. Too bad my drafting's done. I have no more
let's put it
drafts.
this way: you've got to have probably 5 starters on your roster before you consider taking Cole,
At least.
because you got to make him at least your SP6 to make him viable to drop and pick up whoever's on the waiver wire who's hot, whatever.
Yeah.
Because you're not drafting him expecting 180 innings, because you're not getting that. You're drafting him hoping for 120, because if it's a month, there's still a shot you get 120.
Yeah.
That's a best case scenario, right? So that's the risk there. In 120 on a per inning basis, can Cole be excellent if he's healthy for 120 innings? Yes.
Mhm.
He's obviously the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner. But you got to be real cautious, because there's still a chance this turns into surgery and you lose the whole year.
So if we look from last year, let's say, just to make this really easy, let's say he comes back June 1st.
Okay.
That's the start he makes. Last year from June, 30 innings in June, 32 in July, 37 in August, 35 in September. That would give you, he made 21 starts from June on. So 21 starts from Gerrit Cole as your SP6 on a per inning basis, or like fantasy points wise, or
If you make
roto.
21 starts and you're getting 6 innings a start, that's 126 innings.
Right on the money.
On a per inning basis, sure, as long as you have healthy starters around him, right? Like, I'm not, if like Chris Sale and Tyler Glasnow and Justin Verlander are 3 of your pitchers, I'm not taking Cole. You've eaten a whole lot of injury concern right there, right? So it depends on who else you have, right? If they're guys who are healthy and should be healthy and don't have a whole lot of injury risk, which is basically every pitcher now, then you can take Cole late and hope he comes back in a month and he's perfectly healthy. But that's my stance on Cole.
Yep. I think I'm right there with you. Devin Williams, seeing the spine specials that we talked about, never a good thing. He's going to be out for a couple months.
I have way too many questions about Devin Williams.
Well, I have one for you right now. Who closes? Is it Piamps, at least to begin the year? Or is that another
I think it's Piamps. I'm hearing that it's a closer by committee from the Brewers is what the initial results are. There's a lot of people backing Abner Uribe, who was outstanding last year. You're not going to get, not one guy is going to fill in and get all of the saves that Devin Williams would have gotten.
Yeah.
If you're in a saves and holds league, both of them are easily viable. If you're only in a saves league, I'm still leading with Piamps, and his ADP hasn't changed much. You can still get him outside the 250 range, I think. So that's where I'm going. My main question is, he was interviewed and said he felt pain in September and pitched through it because they were in the middle of a playoff hunt, and then played the Diamondbacks and got swept. But once you're out of the playoffs, why didn't you go get it checked then? He said he tried to rest it and let it heal over the offseason. But if it's a stress reaction, shouldn't that have healed in the offseason for him was basically 3 months long. And he said he tried to let it heal and didn't do very much, relaxed, took some meds, whatnot. Well, why is he out 3 months now with, relaxation? And I guess he took a PRP injection, I'm guessing. Why is he out 3 months now when he's already had 3 months of rest? And they didn't do anything about it in the offseason, even though he said he was injured. Like, it's just a very interesting situation for me. And also, does he come back and immediately get the closer gig? I don't know that he does.
Immediately, no.
I think you would put him in lower leverage.
Establish confidence first, because he basically wouldn't have had much of a spring. So you have to have that in play. So yeah, no, I mean, he'll come back a little bit of low leverage within a month of being back. He'll definitely be closing for them if he's not traded. But We'll have to see.
Well, that's the other thing. Is like, or can they trade an injured asset?
Do you think maybe? Never mind, I'm not going to get into any potential collusion with that. That's all pure speculation. But anyway, he's out a couple of months. I lean Piamps over Uribe, but I think maybe we'll say this: Piamps, he may not get all the save chances, but I do think he gets the first one.
I think he gets the bulk.
Yep.
Like if they're going with a 60-40 split, I think he's on the 60 side.
Yep. Let's move away from pitchers here. TJ Friedl in Cincinnati, I believe it was a non-displaced fracture. I think he was diving for a ball in the outfield, wasn't it?
Yes, and it was originally described as a sprained wrist.
That's how it starts.
That's usually how it starts, and then when the swelling goes down, you take some more X-rays, and you go, "Oh no, something's broken." Yeah, fractured wrist.
And we've talked about this in years past. I hate hand, thumb, wrist injuries for hitters. Typically saps a little power upon the return. But what I will say, looking at Friedl here, I mean, he was going to start. Clearly, he was going to be there. Any playing time availability get opened up for anybody? Like it's a guy like, maybe Will Benson slides over to center, but I still think they try to protect him a little bit against lefties. But boy, would I love just let him play every single day. I mean, he may hit for a crappy average, but he's got 2020 written all over him in a full season's work.
Yeah, I would think Will Benson gets a good amount. I'm guessing Stuart Fairchild's probably on the lefty end of that platoon.
Mm-hmm.
There, they've got a lot of dudes who can move around because you got also Nick Martini on the bench if you wanted to, who can play outfield and first base. Spencer Steer has played a bunch of different spots, so maybe you put Spencer Steer in the infield one day, clear an extra outfield spot. So there's quite a bit that they could do. But yeah, I think Benson gets the first crack at it to add some speed to the bottom of that Reds lineup.
Yeah, and I think he was going to play a lot regardless, but I think now with Friedl out, Benson probably moves to center, opens up a corner spot, and please just let the kid play. That's all I can ask for. Matt, in the Fantasy Baseball Draft Guide, you're going to see the catcher spotlight articles. It will already be out by the time you are listening to this podcast. And in there this week, I did bold predictions for the catcher position for fantasy baseball. One of them involves a particular Pittsburgh Pirate, as you probably could expect.
Guessing Henry Davis.
Yeah. If you've seen the reports, which this is interesting in and of itself, Yasmani Grandal can swing. Yasmani Grandal can catch,
but he
can't run.
Right, and he can't play.
So I caught. There's a demand on the feet. When you swing, there's a demand on the feet. I understand. I've never had plantar fasciitis or any fascia injury.
I have it. Basically,
does it make sense that you can do the other two but not run? I've never had it, so I can't really say anything. So if you had it, you could at least empathize.
So the trick with the plantar, so when you have plantar fasciitis, basically the bottom of your foot is inflamed. The muscle on the bottom of your foot is your plantar fascia. When that's inflamed, you have plantar fasciitis. When it's inflamed, it feels like you're walking on the bones of your feet. It feels like there's no padding. Regardless of if you have shoes on or walking barefoot or you have really thick socks and really thick soled shoes, still feels like you're walking on the bones of your feet. And it really quite hurts. So you can stand on them, right? As long as you can stand, it's going to hurt. You can take some ibuprofen for it, whatnot. But running and adding the extra physical force of hitting the ground is going to inflame it more, because basically the only way to get rid of it is to rest your feet. Right. So if you stand on it, not so bad, but like running and walking around and whatnot, that's only going to inflame it more, putting more weight on it. Like if he was to catch and squat and all of your body weight and balance is concentrated in your feet being tense, it's not going to help plantar fasciitis. So it's not that surprising that he can stand there and swing and he can stand up and swing, but they wouldn't want him running with that. That's not shocking. Like NFL wide receivers won't play if they have plantar fasciitis because they can't run on it. Hurts a lot.
Yeah. And with that in mind, it sounds like Pittsburgh says they don't envision him running at least within the next week or so.
Yep, makes sense.
Depending on your league settings, it might be 10 games, it might be 20 games. We might have a week or two to begin the season where Davis is going to be the primary catcher for the Pirates. we originally thought before the team signed Grandal, end of April, he could maybe get that catcher eligibility. Again, depending on your league settings, maybe earlier, to be honest. Just depends. Then Grandal came in. It sounded like they were going to split. We might have to wait a little bit. Even if your league requires 20 games at a position to gain that eligibility, we're looking at a very real chance that Henry Davis has catcher eligibility by the end of April. Like,
Yeah.
he's going to be the primary catcher for as long as Grandal is out because there is no other competition behind the
Right.
dish.
The other thing that intrigues me about this is that you just signed Mitch Keller to a 5-year, $77 million extension, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, Martin Perez and Marco Gonzalez are placeholders, but Luis Ortiz, Jared Jones, um, perhaps even Roansy Contreras when he's good to go.
What about newest acquisition, Domingo Herman?
So those are all young guys you want Henry Davis building a rapport
Mhm.
with them and getting, I mean, as a former catcher, like
Mhm.
pitch sequencing, who likes what tendencies do you like, and what counts, where do you throw it, what pitches do you want to hear? So I could see them playing Henry Davis more with the younger guys to build that rapport that they're hoping will be the battery for the future.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't be. And Andy Rodriguez, who also is kind of a catcher slash jack of all trades, is also injured and he's not going to play for quite a while. So, like you said, there's no real competition here for Henry Davis.
Yep. So keep an eye on that, and also keep an eye out over at fantasyalarm.com in the draft guide for my bold predictions article with one featuring Henry Davis. But Matt, you alluded to it earlier, FSGA team that you drafted with the one and only James Grande. I'm looking at your start here: Juan Soto, Bryce Harper, Bo Bichette. Then you came back with three pitchers in Tarek Skubal, Mr. Duran of the Minnesota Twins, and Justin Steele. So a couple of left-handers to headline the rotation. So let me ask you this: did you have a plan set in place to go hitter, 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 and then look at three pitchers? Did you let the board fall to you, or did you just have individual targets and it was like, hey, we are going to get Skubal. We don't know when we're going to have to take him, but he's one that we are leaving this draft with on our team. What was the overall strategy in the early rounds?
So the overall strategy was we were picking 10th in a 15 teamer, and
Mhm.
it's an expert league. Some of our compadres here at FA were actually in the league with us. I believe Ryan Hallam is in this league, and Ryan Kirksey is also in the league. So that's fun
Mhm.
because we did mock drafts against those guys. So we kind of all know how each other thinks. We were basically hoping for the best bat to fall to us. It's a standard 5x5 roto. So getting Soto 10th is perfectly fine with me. He's not going to kill us in batting average, going to give a lot of power. He should steal maybe, double digit bags for us. And that lineup is really, really awesome. And then coming back, Bryce Harper's easily the best bat that was still on the board. Locks up first base. Um, Also gives the power, average, steals to build off of. And then we were kind of just letting the board fall to us. I was on the phone with James Grande for most of the draft, and we were kind of going, well, who's still there? There was a run of pitchers um, that happened just before Bichette, but we liked several of the guys that were still on the board for pitchers. But we liked Bichette because he was like the key bat that was still there. Um, in the third round, end of the third round, it's pretty clear. Bichette locks up not only shortstop, but again, it keeps the high average power and speed combo going through those first three. And then we had to solidify pitching at that point. And Skubal, I'm perfectly fine with Skubal as an SP1. A
Mhm.
lot of high strikeouts, pretty good ratios in A, that division, and B, that park. Um, Grande likes getting closers a little more than I do, so he picked Johan Duran, which I'm perfectly fine with. He's going to get a lot of saves because the Twins aren't going to blow a lot of teams out, and there's nobody there to challenge him. And then Justin Steele, I can't say no to Justin Steele. That guy is phenomenal. Um, Probably should be considered maybe the ace of the Cubs rotation. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how it. We were just hunting the best bats in the first 2 rounds and then kind of letting the board fall how it would.
Your next little quartet of players in rounds 7 through 10: Bryson Stott, Lane Thomas, Merrill Kelly, and Chris Sale. Let me say this: one reliable arm in Merrill Kelly, and then you're going to chase a little upside with Chris Sale. How much lobbying with James Grande did you have to do to take to get a homer pick in there with Lane Thomas in round 8?
Not a ton of lobbying. He liked him. He went almost 2020 last year. He should be the best bat in that lineup. I know that doesn't necessarily say a lot, but he's got the skills to repeat what he did last year. Merrill Kelly, look, as an SP3, perfectly fine, right? He's going to strike out a decent amount of guys. He is an innings eater. His ratios will be pretty good, and he's going to have pretty decent chances to win with that lineup. And then Chris Sale, like as an SP4, he has looked phenomenal with Atlanta. If he stays healthy, there is no way that he is not returning way better than SP4 value. So that's obviously the question mark with Chris Sale is health, right? But maybe a change of locale keeps him healthy. The Braves seem to know how to, harness pitching. So that's basically what we went after there, with some upside in the pitching.
Fair enough. And then Francisco Alvarez as your first catcher. You said that you start 2 catchers, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about Alvarez a little later, so I don't want to show my cards too early with him per se. Now, you mentioned it was you and James on the phone. Did John and Pemba sneak on the phone at all? Because what I see here in rounds 12 through 14, I see a theme with Jaron
Yes.
Duran, Trevor Story, and Brian Bello in terms of one Red Sox after another, and then a third. So a trio, back to back Red Sox. So how did John and Pemba get on the phone for this?
It was pretty funny. We were joking about this ourselves. Jaron Duran, I like him. He finally broke through last year. I'm keeping him in my home league for pennies on the dollar in terms of value. So for him to fall to us and still give us that, he had a reasonable average last year. The speed is there. I think there's still a little more power to come. And Trevor Story, if he stays healthy, he's the everyday shortstop for the Red Sox in a pretty good lineup. He still has, I don't know how much he's going to run anymore, but the pop is still there, right? And at this point, we didn't necessarily need a ton of steals. And the average be okay. I mean, it depends on what he decides to do there. And then Bayo is, what are we up to? SP6 at this point? SP5. Look, I'm perfectly fine with it. The Red Sox just extended him on a 5-year deal, and he's supposed to be the number 2 for them. I think his strikeout numbers are a little better this year than they were last year. He's been working with Pedro Martinez in the offseason. That can't hurt, right? So yeah, it's another high upside strikeout, pretty solid ratio starting pitcher.
And let me ask you this. I have 2 more questions related to this draft. Obviously, you're going to get Anthony Rizzo in the 16th round. As I'm looking over here, Shea Langeliers is your second catcher. It looks like you're just going power, boom or bust behind the dish, which I am completely fine with there. How excited were the 2 of you? And if absolutely overjoyed is not the answer here, then you 2 are wrong, to get Maikel Garcia in the 18th round.
He was very.
You had to be over the moon.
We were really, really excited because at that point, I don't think we had officially filled our third base spot. And so we were kind of looking and trying to figure out who we were going to take. We were kind of surprised that Junior Caminero went off the board before Maikel Garcia, considering the fact he's going to start in the minors. We were looking at Ke'Bryan Hayes. He went a couple of picks. He went in kind of a weird spot for us to be able to nab him. Jeimer Candelario, we kind of liked. But yeah, we basically had it down to Eugenio Suarez or Maikel Garcia, and Garcia was still there. So we took him because that power speed combo in third base that late in the draft is pretty intriguing.
Absolutely. Then last question I have for you here for the 15-team draft that you did here in the FSGA. Was there any one player that got away? you were really hoping for him at a spot and you just missed out on him, or a player that y'all targeted and didn't get a chance to get? Who's the one that got away in this draft?
For me, it was a couple of starters who went between when we picked Bichette and Skubal. I really wanted either Pablo Lopez or George Kirby, and they went between us picking Bichette in the second round and then looping back to Skubal in the third round. So those, I would say, kind of got away. I don't know about really anybody. Ryan Jeffers, I would have liked as our second catcher. A little more than Langoliers, but Langoliers has a lot of power, not a whole lot of batting average, but a solid amount of pop. So, and by the way, touching on the Piamps and Uribe thing, we took both of them in the last 2 rounds of this draft.
Hey, you decrease your chances of being wrong. So
correct. And then to finish off starters, we took Taj Bradley and Griffin Canning. So, again, 2 if they can build upon what they did last year, more so for Bradley than Canning. And we've got some more high upside strikeout guys sitting on the bench. So,
and that certainly doesn't hurt. Overall, well done. I like the team. Looking at it here, I have no real complaints. So I'm excited to see how the team plays out for y'all, especially with a couple of guys in your team being some of the talking points here and what we're going to do next. So Matt, I talked about it in the beginning. This is the last episode of the offseason because technically there will be regular season games happening. So
correct.
It is tradition what we are going to do. Some bold predictions for the 2024 Major League Baseball season. Matt, on the show sheet, I wrote nothing. It is free reign. It can be good. It can be bad. It can be player. It can be team. It can be world. I do not care. Just a couple of bold predictions for the 2024 season. Would you like to do the honors in going first?
I will go first.
Okay.
I will touch on our first baseman that we drafted. One of them, guys taking up the corner, Anthony Rizzo. I think Anthony Rizzo is going to hit for better than 255 average.
Okay.
And at least 28 home runs.
Okay.
I know that a lot of people are down on Rizzo because his numbers were atrocious last year. Okay, let's break this down. Prior to the concussion, which he sustained in May, and then they made him play with a concussion for 2 straight months, even though nobody apparently in the Yankees medical staff could figure out he was concussed. Prior to the concussion, he was hitting 304 and had nice power. Post-concussion, all of his numbers dropped because he couldn't catch up to velocity. He could not get to the inside pitch he normally gets to, right? Mm-hmm. His first year in New York, or the year prior to that, he hit 32 home runs with a 245 average. He's going to be getting more pitches to hit this time in this lineup, right? You've added Juan Soto to it. Glaber had a breakout. You get a healthy Judge. Stanton is way thinner, so he hopefully stays healthy. I do know Judge has the oblique thing, but he'll be on the opening day roster. You get a healthier, deeper lineup. Rizzo's going to get some stuff to hit. He's not concussed. He can catch up to it. He's had pretty good spring training. So I'm going with better than 255 average and 28 or more home runs for Rizzo this year.
Okay. Well, I will go with your catcher then. You're going to read about this in the article in the draft guide. Francisco Alvarez leads all catchers in home runs in 2024. No Cal Raleigh. I don't think anyone thinks Adley's going to be at the top of the home run category. But
he's not really the big bopper.
Yep.
Alvarez is an all-around guy.
Alvarez is going to lead the position. And interestingly enough, I'm looking over at DraftKings Sportsbook and his home run lines at 22.5, Matt.
I would take the over.
Well, in the article, I said he's hitting 30 plus. So
that's exactly the number I told Grande, because he was like, "How do you feel about Alvarez?" I was like, "That's a 30 plus homer bat at catcher." He goes, "Sold." And we took him.
I took it for. I said it'll never happen because he's a catcher. But I said if you would give me 650 plate appearances for Alvarez in a season, he would hit 40.
Yeah, he's never going to get. I mean, unless he'll never get there half the time.
And they won't
because they have enough bats to fill that. But yes.
Yep. So Alvarez leads all catchers with home runs in 2024. I'll just add it in. He had 30 plus. I'll just add that in there too. So that is that's my first one. So let's head on back over to you.
Okay, my second one. This may disappoint you. a little bit,
Oh, lovely.
Colby. It's also going to disappoint anybody who took Paul Skenes. I don't think Paul Skenes comes up till September.
Hmm.
The more I'm reading into it about the Pirates, I don't think he's coming up till September. I'm sorry, folks. I know everybody goes, "Oh, he should just come up right now," because he was great at LSU. He only had to throw 2 pitches at LSU because college hitters can't hit more than a fastball and a breaking pitch, right? He has to learn how to use his other ones, pitch sequence, whatnot. He also only threw 6 and 2/3 innings last year in the pros. And yes, he made it to double A. The double A start was like 4 batters. So I think he's going to be parked in Altoona for a while. Sorry there, Livy Dunn, but you're going to be going to the middle of Pennsylvania for a while. And then I think they work him to AAA and he gets a good chunk of time at AAA. I don't see any reason why the Pirates want to start the clock on him. I don't see any reason for it, right? Your roster right now is not built to compete. I'm sorry, Colbs. Neither of the Nats. Okay, we're basically in the same boat here. And the Nats aren't, I don't think Dylan Cruz or James Wood comes up till at least August for the Nats. But I don't think Paul Skenes comes up till September for the Pirates.
Yeah, you definitely upset a lot of people there. Although I kind of agree with you on some of it.
Like if you're in a draft and hold, take a shot. If there's literally no pickups during the season, take a shot. Because this is your only shot to get them this year. But if you are in a normal waiver or fab or free agent league, there's 0 reason to be drafting Paul Skenes.
Fair enough. Let me give you one here. I got 2 more, maybe 3 more. All depends. Probably 2. Which one do I want to go with here? All right.
I have another one.
The Oakland Athletics.
Yes.
Ready for this?
Yeah.
Their win total will not be the lowest in Major League Baseball this year. Again, that may not be overly bold, but I think the White Sox or the Rockies lose more games than Oakland does this year.
I could see some more than just the White Sox and Rockies.
Well, I don't know if they both will, but all I'm saying is Oakland will not have the lowest win total by the end of the season.
I could see part of me makes a case for the Brewers.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you like the under on Milwaukee's 77.5 win total?
Yeah. Has anybody looked at their starting rotation?
Oh, I mean, at least they have Freddie Peralta.
Yeah. You know who the second guy is? Colin Flippin' Ray. Yeah. Jacob Junis. Joe Ross, who had to go to Korea before anybody would sign him. And DL Hall, who most people believe is not a starter because he walks more people than Blake Snow. That's... I don't know. And their offense, yeah, okay. Their offense is all right. But, do you really like their offense more than the Cubs or the Reds or the Cardinals? No.
Yeah, first 2 I look at, I think Chicago or Colorado loses more. Colorado's pitching staff is not built for Coors Field, let alone Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
It's a bad rotation. Then you look at Chicago, and here's the thing with Chicago. Chicago has the perfect storm, or maybe I should say the imperfect storm, to win the fewest amount of games in baseball this year. Because when you look at their pitching staff, it's 5 question marks and thumbs down. The back end of the bullpen, there's questions there as well. And when you look at their offense, look at their most notable bats. What is the problem with both of them? Durability.
Well, they can't stay healthy, and then when
we could be a month into the season and look at a White Sox, and I hope this doesn't happen because I'm not rooting for it at all because I have drafted a lot of Eloy and Luis Robert.
Yes.
But there's a very real chance come May 1st, they're trotting out John Brebbia in the 9th inning of a game, regardless of the score. Gerrit Crochet is their most effective starter, who's hardly a starter, and it's a lineup with no Eloy and no Luis Robert Jr.
Yeah, instead you've got either Gavin Sheets or Denny Mendick.
That's a team that is built to win the fewest amount of games in baseball.
Yeah.
The blueprint's there.
No, it's hard to
And I know you're
hard to
not disagreeing with
disagree.
me. You're not arguing with me at all. I'm kind of arguing against the air, but trying to make my case. But that's what I'm saying. The A's win more games than someone this season. So you said you got one more. I got one more as well. So I'll kick it over to you for your tertiary bold prediction number 3.
So I don't know that this is that bold,
Okay.
but I'm going to go with the Dodgers not winning more than 95 games.
Okay. Any reason? Just gut call?
You can't win more than 100 games that many seasons in a row. I still don't know how they won more than 100 games last year, aside from a really good offense and smoke and mirrors in the pitching, right? I'm not sure how they do it this year. The Giants' offense is better this year than it was last year. The Diamondbacks are better this year than they were last year. And by the way, the Diamondbacks led the division through July 1st and had the best record in the NL through June 13th. And the D-backs are better. The Padres, I don't think we should be sleeping fully on them. I think they get beat up more in the NL West this year than they did last year. And you're talking about pitching questions. They have 4 healthy starters right now. Glass now, Yamamoto, who's going to need a first half of seasoning, Bobby Miller, and Gavin Stone. Kershaw is not walking through that door anytime soon. Walker Buehler's not. Gonsolin's not. Dustin May isn't. Emmett Sheehan isn't. I don't think they top 95 wins.
Fair enough. And I will give you one here for my last one, depending on your risk portfolio here. It's a little interesting. I'm going to have a little bit of action sprinkled on the Royals to win the AL Central.
That's not terrible.
If you want, they're at plus 850 on DraftKings Sportsbook. But if you want
you'd have to go with what, the Twins being the favorite.
You can do a division 1-2. If you go Minnesota 1, Kansas City 2 in the division, it's like plus 650. So that's something that I like as well. I like Kansas City's offense a lot. After Cole Reagans, and honestly, even with Cole Reagans, once we get to about 115 innings pitched, I have questions about there. I think their bullpen overperforms just a little bit. I don't think they're the best in the league. I don't think they're going to be as bad as people makes it out to be. There are some questions, sure, but I think there's enough to solidify things there. I like the Royals to win some games, and I think a lot of people are going to kind of jump on the Tigers train that's kind of happening a little bit, like jump on Detroit. A lot of things are interesting there. But give me Kansas City as a dark horse to win the AL Central, because honestly, in that division, anything's up for grabs. They're all going to beat up on Chicago. So they're all just going to get their wins there. And honestly, you can't convince me that come the trade deadline, Cleveland isn't selling. I can see that happening. So I like the Royals to take the AL Central.
I mean, you can make an argument that they are right there with the Twins offense in terms of the best in that division. Like I don't like it's Guardians offense all that much.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of contact and not a lot of pop.
Mm-hmm.
For everything that's being said about the Naylor brothers. We already talked about the White Sox. They're atrocious in every way, and Detroit's coming, but they're not there yet. So yeah, that might be fun. Now, no guarantees they're over 500 to win the division.
You what?
So no guarantees that they're over 500 to win that division.
Hey, they could win 64 games. I don't care as long as they win the division.
I mean,
they'll need to win more than 64. But
no, they'll have to be around 500, if not a few games over. But like they may be able to win the division at what, 84 and 78.
Could do it. I very well could do it. Give me the Royals in the AL Central. End of story. That's where I'm going with. But of course, head over to fantasyalarm.com. If your league hasn't drafted yet, you need to get your hands on the Fantasy Alarm Fantasy Baseball Draft Guide. If you go to an all-pro subscriber, you can also get access to Matt and I in the Discord. Ask us your keeper questions, draft questions. We'll take a look at your team, let you know where we think you're a little light, where you're strong, etc. You have to be an all-pro member to be in the Discord there or not. Just get your hands on the cheat sheet, your one-stop shop your best resource that you need for all of your drafts. The regular season is right around the corner. Games are about to be played. We'll start talking in-season moves, streamers, pickups, matchups to take advantage of. Matt and I will be breaking it down every week throughout the season. So make sure you give Matt a follow at the Salesman. Give me a follow over on X at Colby R. Conway. Like and subscribe. All the great content at fantasyalarm.com. And Matt, the season's right around the corner. So next time we'll see you, there will be some regular season win-loss records that we'll actually get to take a look at and enjoy. So again, fantasyalarm.com. Give Matt a follow on X. Give me a follow on X. And we will see you next week with the newest edition of Caught Stealing.